Hello everyone, today in this video I am going to deal with a story of class 10th, that is his first flight, written by Liam O'Flaherty. This story is about a young seagull who is afraid to fly. His younger brother and sister as well as his elder brother and sister has mastered the art of flying, but he is afraid of flying. He have made several attempts, but he could not gather that much courage to fly. His parents has tried a lot to teach him, but he had never made an attempt because he was afraid. He think that his wings will not support him, and it may be that he will fall and he will die. But at last, his mother taught him how to fly. She has the plan, and at last she was successful in teaching her child how to fly. So let's see how the seagull made his first flight. So this is the story of the first flight of the seagull. That seagull who was not able to fly, who was afraid to fly. Not able, it's not like that. He was afraid to fly out of fear. So this is the story of that seagull only. Here he is referred to that particular seagull who was afraid to fly. The young seagull was alone on the laze. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. So here we are introduced, in this paragraph we are introduced to the young seagull who was afraid to fly. And the seagull was all alone on the ledge. Now what is ledge? Ledge is a narrow horizontal self projecting from a wall, and here it is a cliff. So he was all alone over there. His brother and sister and his parents has already flown a day before. It means he was there all alone for a day. They had not taken him with him because he was afraid to fly. And it's not that he had never made an attempt. He had tried. So in order to try to fly, he used to run forward. He used to go at the brink. Brink here refers to the edge. So he goes to the edge of that ledge, and he had made an attempt to flap his wing. Flap is the up and down movement of the wings of the bird. But at that moment, the moment he reached at the brink, at the edge of that ledge, and when he see the vastness of sea, the sea which has no end, and when he see the height at which he was situated, when he see the height, he get afraid from the height as well as the vastness of the sea. And therefore at that moment his fear grew much more, and therefore from that point he used to run back to the point where he used to sleep at night. So he has been alone for a day on that ledge. Why? Because his parents, his brother and sister has left him on that ledge, and as he don't know how to fly, he was left all alone. And he was afraid to see the vastness of the sea and the height at which he was situated, and therefore he had never tried to fly. Even when each of his brother and little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings, and flew away. He failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to be so desperate. His father and mother had come around calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew up. But for the life of him he could not move. So, in this paragraph it is given that even his younger brother and sister, even they used to fly. Even they, despite of having shorter wings than him, they used to run to the edge of the ledge, and from there they used to flap their wings, move their wings, and suddenly they used to fly up in the sky. But this seagull, this young seagull, he had never been able to muster up courage. Muster up, it means he had never been able to gather that much courage, the courage which may help him to plunge, to jump from that ledge and to fly. So it seemed quite desperate to him, this act of flying from that height, from the hill and the vastness of the sea, make him seems hopeless. His father and mother had come around calling him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. So his parents had tried a lot. His parent came to him and they were shrilly. Shrilly, it means making noise. Upbraiding here, it means they were scolding him. They scolded him and they warned him even that if he will not fly from that place, they will let him starve. They will not provide him any food. He will be there all alone, starving. Therefore, he must have to survive. But at the same time, he was very much afraid, and due to which he could not even make an attempt to fly. Now let's see whether he was able to fly or not, or whether he kept on starving. That was 24 hours ago. Since then nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sisters, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the wave and how to dive for fish. So for 24 hours he was all alone. So it means there he was all alone for a day, and none of them, neither his brother nor sister, and not even his parents, has come to him. So it means he was totally dependent upon his parents as well as his brother and sister for his survival, that is for food. So in the meanwhile, while he was there on the ledge, and his brother and sister along with his parents, they were down in the sea, they were flying, and his parents were teaching his brother and sister how to skim the wave and how to dive in water. So wow, what is a skim? To move lightly just above the surface. So how to skim? It means how to move softly, gently over the surface of water. And how to dive? It means how to get into the water in order to get fish. So fish is the ultimate source of food for this seagull. So his parents were perfecting his children in the art of flight, while at the same time this young seagull, he was sitting on the ledge being afraid of flying. He had in fact seen his older brother catching his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle, and all the morning the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. So now, as his parents were training his other brother and sister, and in the meanwhile his older brother, the older brother of this young seagull, has caught his first herring. Now what is herring? It's a soft fine sea fish. So herring is a fish. So for the first time the older brother of this bird, of this seagull, young seagull, had caught a fish and has devoured it. Now what is devoured? To eat quickly. And his parents and other brother and sister was cheering him, was praising him for his art of swimming, for his art of flying, and for his art of catching the fish. Standing on a rock while his parents circled around him praising on the cackle. So, and his parents were praising the older brother who had learnt the art of catching fish and the art of devouring it. And all the morning the family had walked about on big plateau made down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. And for the whole day, for that 24 hours, for that whole day, they had not returned back to the lace where they used to live. And he was left all alone, and his other members of the family were on the opposite cliff. The cliff which was opposite to the lace where they used to live. So they were on the opposite cliff, and from there they were taunting him. They were mocking him. To whom? The seagull who don't know how to fly, who were not able to fly, who were afraid of flying. They were taunting him for his cowardice, for his behavior of being afraid to fly. So all the members of family were there in the sea, flying, and they were resting on the big plateau which was just opposite to the lace where they lived, while this seagull, young seagull, was left all alone, hungry on this ledge. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge, and standing on one ledge with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other. So now he has not eaten anything since the previous night. He was out of food because he don't know how to fly, and the members of the family who used to bring food to him, they were not on this cliff, they were not on this lace, and they have not come to this lace where they live for one day, and therefore he was totally hungry. And then what he did? He went up to the edge. Here you can see in this picture, he went to the edge. This is edge. This is edge. So he went up to the edge, and there what he did, he stood on one leg, and he hid his second leg, and he closed his eyes. So why he was doing so? Let's see. And pretended to be falling asleep. So he went up there and he tried to show his parents that he is pretending he is sleeping, but he was pretending. Pretending means not really to show. Then what happened? Still they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and sister lying on a plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. So he tried to gather their attention. He tried to get noticed, that as if he was falling asleep, and while at the same time on the opposite cliff, his two brothers and his sisters were lying on the plateau. They were dodging, they were taking rest. Dodging means they were taking rest. And his father, he was preening. What is preening? He was preparing his feather. It means to maintain. Preening, it means making an effort to maintain his feathers. So he was preparing, maintaining his feathers, and no one was looking at him, only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump of the plateau with her breast thrust forward. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. So no one was looking at him except his mother. And that too, what her mother was doing over there on that plateau, she had a fish in her leg and she was tearing the fish which was there lying on the plateau. Perhaps they have caught that fish and she was tearing that fish with the help of her beak and with her feet. And at this time, as he was quite hungry, the young seagull, he was very much hungry, and when he saw his mother tearing that fish, he got mad for food because he was totally hungry, and when he saw food, his hunger grew many times. And he started thinking of the moment when he used to tear the food and how he enjoyed that. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring some food. Gaw, claw. She screamed back derisively, but he kept calling plaintively. After a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet and trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. Now what happened? He started crying and he started begging for food to his mother. Then at that point, her mother screamed back. And that too, she screamed back derisively. Now what is derisively? It is in a manner showing someone that he or she is stupid. So she was scolding. She was saying that you are stupid. And then, even then, he continued crying. And kept calling plaintively. What is plaintively? He kept plaintively, it means expressing sorrow, as he was quite hungry, and therefore he expressed sorrow in the form of crying, in the form of begging. And after a minute he became happy. He screamed joyfully, with happiness. So why he screamed joyfully? The reason is he saw his mother picking a piece of fish and she was flying to him. She was coming to him. The sight of food and the sight of his mother coming to him made him very happy. So he get very happy, and in order to get food, the bird went near the edge, tapping the rock with his feet. So here you can see in the image that this bird has come up to this edge, the bird which is sitting on the edge. So it has come to the edge. Now let's see what happened then. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at fish. With a loud scream, he fell outward and downward into space. So he was very much happy because her mother was coming to him, because his mother was coming to him with food in her beak. But what happened? When she came nearer to him, then what she did, she stopped for a second. She stopped her wings, she stopped flapping her wings, and she stopped for a second. And then what she did, she stopped herself and she was in a reach. She was nearer to the child. She was nearer to this young seagull. But instead of going toward him, she stopped. Here you can see in this image, she has stopped, and there is a very slight distance between the beak of mother as well as the child. But she stopped. And he was very much hungry. And therefore, he was surprised at why she stopped. When she has come to deliver food to him, then why she has stopped? And then he was quite mad with hunger. Without thinking for a second, he dived at fish. It means he jumped toward her mother to catch the fish which was there in her beak. And then he fell. He fell screaming outward and downward into the space. So when he made a jump, when he leaped toward her mother, he jumped and he fell downward, outward, it means away from the cliff, and downward, that is in the downward direction. Now let's see what he did, how he was able to save his life. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. So what he did, he fell, he was falling. And then suddenly, for a moment, he was very much terrified. He was afraid. He could not understand anything. It seemed to him that he was going to die. Therefore, it is said that monstrous terror seized him. But what happened? That terror lasted for only a minute. After that, he could feel, the bird could feel that his wings are spreading and the wind is rushing. It is thrusting her breast and stomach as well as against his wings. So he could see that his wings is spread and now the wind is supporting him. It means the wind was pushing her upward. And the bird could feel that the tips is the pointed end of the wings. He could feel that the pointed ends of the wings was cutting the air, and it means she realized that she is not going to fall. Her wings as well as the air is supporting her to fly. Now let's see what happened then, whether he was successfully able to fly or not. He was not falling headlong. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downward and outward. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once again and soared upward. Ga, 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 go, cloak. His mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, cavorting and banking and soaring and diving. So what happened? Suddenly he realized that it's quite easy, and all his feeling of afraid, feeling of fear, it was lost, and he could sense that he is balancing himself. He could sense that his wings is supporting his body, as well as he saw that his winds, he saw that winds and his feathers, his body is supporting him and he is not falling. And then suddenly what he did, he flapped his wings. Flapped, it means he made upward and downward movement with his wings, and then he became very happy, and with that flapping, with the movement of his wings, he found himself moving upward, and then he grew happy, and he started screaming. And then then his mother, his father, his brother and sister, everyone came to him. He found everyone surrounding him, and they all were shouting, they all were screaming, they were screaming out of joy, they were happy. He could see his brother and sister cheering him, they were happy, they were supporting him. So he could see the only one thing which he felt while he was falling down, that is, he was feeling dizzy. What is dizzy? An uncomfortable feeling of spinning round and losing one's balance. So It's like what we call in Hindi chakkar aana. So that is dizzy. Only thing which he felt, that was dizziness. So he felt dizziness, and apart from that he felt nothing. He grew happy, and once he flapped his wing, he found himself soaring up into the sky, and as soon as he soared up in the sky, his brother and sister, his parents, followed him. They were supporting him. They came to help him out. And he saw his brother and sister flying around him, cavorting. Cavorting, what is cavorting? Leaping like a horse in order to support him, and banking and soaring and diving. So they were doing different activities in order to praise him, in order to increase his motivation level, in order to encourage him to fly. They were showing different movement to him, that it's quite easy, even you can do this. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. So after a minute or two, he forgot that he had never flown before. He thought that he had flown many times before, and this act of flying, this art of flying, was not new to him. He felt so, and he found himself totally comfortable. He found himself flying up into the sky, commending himself, praising himself. So he was praising himself for his act, and he commended himself, he praised himself that you are flying very good, you are making a good movement, and himself to dive and soar and curve. And then he motivated himself, encouraged himself to make another step, to take another step, that is to dive, to soar and to curve. So he motivated himself to take another step. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. So now he found himself flying over the ocean, and he could see the vastness of the sea, the green color of the sea. He could see the only water and water, and then he became very happy. His parents and his brother and sisters had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings, but he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted. So now what happened? As he was on the surface of water, not on the surface, no, he has not landed yet, he was above the surface of the water. So when he was above the surface of the water, his brother and sister and everyone, all members of the family, they had already landed on the surface of the water, and in order to call him, in order to show him that this is how you can land over the water and this is how you can float over the water. So they were calling him, beckoning him. Beckoning, it means guiding him. They were guiding, they were trying to guide him. They were showing him in sign. They were showing the sign. They were providing guidance that this is how you can land over the water and this is how you can float over the water. So, motivated by his brother and sister, what he did? He dropped his leg and he tried to stand on the green ocean. He tried to stand on the surface of the water, but what happened? He found that his leg was sinking into the water, and therefore again he grew afraid and he started screaming out of fear. And therefore again started flapping his wings so that he could rise above the water. But now, as he has not eaten anything for last one day, therefore he was quite hungry and he was very much tired. He was exhausted. Exhausted, it means he was very much tired. He was out of energy. He was not left with any energy. So let's see what happened then. by the strange exercise. So he was totally exhausted with the strange exercise. It means this, why it is strange, because he has done it for the first time. He had never witnessed it. So out of this exercise, because of these exercises which he had done right now, that is the exercise of flying, soaring up into the sky, then again down on the surface of water, all this has exhausted him, and that too he had not eaten anything for past one day, and therefore he was feeling weak, totally tired. So now let's see what happened then, whether he was able to land on the surface of water or not. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it. He sank no further. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him a scrap of dogfish. So now what happened? Again he tried to put himself on the surface of water. So once again he landed on the surface of water, and then he found that his legs were sinking. So he let his legs sink into the water, into the ocean, and as soon as his belly, his stomach area, the breast area, as soon as it touched the surface of water, he felt that he was not sinking any further. He was stable on the surface of water, and then this is how he learned how to swim also. And his brother and sister, all members of the family, was surrounding him, was around him, and they were screaming, they were praising him, and they were out of affection, as he had not eaten anything, and as a gift for mastering this art of flying, they all were offering him, they were all giving him the scrap of dogfish. It means the piece of dogfish which they have caught from the ocean. He has made his first flight. So this is how this bird, this young seagull, made his first flight. So in this story, we saw that how the young seagull, with the help of his family members, was able to swim, was able to fly. So in the story, two things we have learned, that is, the one is we should always try to muster our fear. We should not be afraid of doing anything. And secondly, we have seen the importance of members of the family and how members of the family are always to support us. For a time being, the mother of this seagull, this young seagull, has been harsh to him, was little bit cruel to him, but it was not in order to punish him. It was in order to let him fly. It was in order to let him learn how to fly. It was in order to train him. So whatever our family, our parents do, it is not to harm us, it is not to do anything wrong to us, but our members of the family do everything, whatever they do, they are always to support us, to bring some improvement in us, to teach us something. So the story talks about the importance of family, and the secondly, that how we should muster our courage. So this bird, he was not able to fly, he was afraid of flying, but as soon as he mustered his courage, as soon as he witnessed it once, he found that it was nothing, it was a cakewalk, it was quite easy, and lastly, in a single day, in a single attempt, he learned most of the movement. This is all about this chapter. If you have any doubt, write in our comment box. Thank you for watching.